Well, a Section 140 claim is something that's extremely interesting, and this is something that's only really surfaced from November last year, and it involves something known as the Plevin case. Now, when you hear this, you're going to be a bit kind of angry about the level of percentage of commission in PPI. And basically what happened was this lady called Mrs. Plevin took Paragon Finance to court about something entirely different really to start off with, and then what happened was that her legal team happened to ask the question how much commission was payable on my PPI policy that I took for approximately £5,500. And would you believe the figure, the percentage commission, rather eye-watering figure, it was just short of 72%. So what sort of implications does that have? Well, the implication here is that traditionally the way to claim for missold PPI is the process of how it's been sold in terms of the regulation that is applied way back to December 1989, when you had the ABI guidelines through to the GISC guidelines up until the FCA when they came into power, which was in January of 2005. So this is something completely different. It's not about the process of how it was missold, but rather the fact that it was an unfair contract. And why is that the case? Well, under Section 140A to C of the Consumer Credit Act, an unfair contract can be something that is in the contract that's unfair, but also it could be something that's not in the contract that could be unfair, and if the customer knew it would have affected their decision to buy a policy. In this particular case, it's the level of commission that applies. So basically what the judge said in that situation was, I'm not going to comment as to what a tipping point would be in terms of when someone would buy a policy or not buy a policy, but what he said was effectively 72% is way beyond the tipping point, if you like. And what's happened is that in turn the FCA have said, well, look, we're going to look at this. At the moment, we think a tipping point may be 50%. Personally, I think that's way, way too high. I don't think any consumer would have bought a policy from any bank, building society, whatever it may be, if they knew the commission beforehand was 50%. The FCA will make a decision on what this level of, if you like, fair commission or tipping point will be. They'll make that when they make their announcement towards the end of February. But what does it affect at the moment? Well, it affects kind of really primarily three things. It can be where you have previously had a claim rejected by a lender. So a classic example of this would be, for example, Alliance and Leicester. You've been rejected by Alliance and Leicester. Alliance and Leicester were one of the first lenders to be fined way back in 2008, fined £7 million for mis-selling PPI. They had to write out to customers to make them aware that it had been missold, and then these customers had a period of time in which to make a claim. A lot of them, for whatever reason, chose not to do so. This would allow them to now go back and claim under Section 140 to at least get partial compensation. This would also apply as well to, for example, loans where it's not actually the lender that sold the PPI. What kind of situation would that be? This would be, let's just think, you bought a secured loan, you went through a secured loan search company, and what's happened is they've, for example, got you to take a loan with, let's say, First Plus. So First Plus aren't the person that really sold the loan, they were just the cheapest person or the one recommended, however the PPI was on their loan, so therefore that's now one you can claim against as well. Also, kind of like a slightly strange one, it's called a partial redress. So you had situations where banks weren't given full compensation for personal loans, saying that what they could have done, the people, is they could have taken a different type of cover, and they've deducted that cover, or the cost of that cover, from the final decision in terms of how much compensation has been given out, and this would allow you to go and recover some of that money again. So very, very interesting, and when you see the levels of commission that have applied, yeah, pretty eye-watering stuff.